Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Karen's Chronicles. And I am happy to be here with you tonight. It's been quite a weekend, it's not over yet. And I hope that this video comes to you with some rest or some fun on your agenda. Tonight, we're going to talk about the blast from the past. We have all met or seen someone from our past that we've known and we have not connected with in a while, or we've been somewhere and we've seen people that we used to spend a lot of time with, and then all of a sudden you just remember, you remember places you used to go, things you used to do, conversations. And for me, it immediately brought me back to who I was then, vice who I am now. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. And this is a positive conversation. My encounter was not a negative one, but it left me not but and it left me remembering, man, who I was like almost 12 years ago, who I was as a woman 15 years ago. And ask it started me thinking, what can I learn from this? Because just to be honest, when you see people that you haven't talked to in a while and you catch up or you don't, you maybe just see them from a distance, my mind immediately goes back to the last time I saw that person or people, the last time I talked to them, what was going on in my life during that time, especially when you haven't seen each other and you engage. It's the catch up. It's the first 30 seconds of, hey, how you doing? How have you been? It's an onslaught of questions because there's been a gap in your relationship. And I wanted to talk about that tonight because it it helps me learn from every situation. And I want to extract the positive and give us a starting point in the event that a blast from the past reflection encounter takes you into a weird zone or a direction where it is not necessarily as positive. So let's just dive into it. Memory is a mirror. It is a reflection because we are reflecting, we are looking back in the rearview mirror of time at who we were. And for me, I just remember such a different time and place. And I was explaining to uh, an acquaintance of mine that I was, in this environment near, sort of what was going on in my life 12 years ago. And just thinking about it, one made me count so many blessings because I realized that the woman that I am now is so different from the woman that I was at that point in time. So I immediately have to give God glory. And I also recognize that I am still growing. So it triggers memories of habits, attitudes, choices that I made. For me, we're talking late 30s, early 40s that have shaped my life, and also choices that I wouldn't make again, because I have grown. And why I believe it matters is because there's visible growth and then there's internal growth. There's growth that people can see. You all have to bear with me. I'm holding this because it didn't want to fit right on my t-shirt. So let me get back to the point. There's visible growth. So I physically look different. And then there's the growth on the inside that they can't see because we haven't been doing life. We just that there's been that separation. And I want to acknowledge the transformation. So for most of you that don't know me or didn't know me the last 3 years, I used to wear wigs. I had this bob. I might just put a picture up of me with my bob. I had this really nice swept bob, and I loved it. So I always wear that wig. So physically, I met people this weekend that had not seen me with my new hairdo. I'll say that, and they were like, "You look amazing. You look great." I thank you so much. I'll take all of the compliments. But that's another transformation, the physical transformation. And then there's the emotional part. It's seeing people that were in your life before brings up emotions. And so each person, because I was in an environment where I could name 10 people. Like, I'm like, wow, I hadn't seen that person in 12 years. It's been 8 years. There's so much has happened in my life since I've seen them. And it brings up emotions because you literally travel back in time to make that connection with the person that you're meeting or persons. And then you got to kind of catch them up or not, or just basically enjoy the fact that you're seeing them again. And so there's emotions that are attached to that. And it's a mirror. Those memories are a mirror of who you were compared to who you are now. And so beyond the physical difference, I'm very thankful to have received the compliments. Thank you all so much, because the woman that I was then didn't love herself very much. I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. Dealt with low self esteem due to I was very heavy, and I was at least three something, and then I had lost a lot of weight, and I gained it back, and so I went through a period where I loved myself, I didn't like myself, and so there were various people that I saw that were a part of that journey, i.e., they knew me when I was small, or they knew me when I was larger, and so my identity was very different. There were folks that knew me in a different job that I am in now. So just my career arc, man, in the last 10 years my career has grown tremendously. The places that I'm in now, I couldn't even see me being in those places at those meetings with the people that I meet with today. And so all of that brings me to a place of reflection and also gratitude. The next point is exactly what I just said. I appreciate and I accept. So when we go back in time, we can get the regrets, right? Interestingly enough, there was someone who watched one of my videos, one of my early videos, and I said, the title was Accepting Something, No Regrets. And so he thought that I had spelled the word wrong, but clearly he doesn't watch the Super Bowl commercials, because there was a tattoo commercial, it's a Snickers commercial, where the guy literally misspells regrets and he spells it regrets. And so it's tongue in cheek thing. But anyway, no regrets. Like there were some regrets that I had back in those days, and you reflect on those too. And so for me, it was an acceptance of the decisions that I had made, the decisions that I did not make, and the decisions that I wish that I had made, and all of those thought processes, all of those thoughts can overwhelm you if you're not careful. They can also take you in a trajectory of negativity, especially if you're still battling or challenged with some of those decisions and choices in your present day. For me personally, I am in such a mindset of acceptance and desiring to improve daily. And trust me, I get it wrong. I stumble. There are days where I'm like, man, here I come again. Yet, Lord, it's me. And I am ever growing and endeavoring to improve based on my Christian values. But I appreciate and I'm thankful for the progress. Let me just say, I'm thankful for the progress in the onward journey. And when we see people that we have not seen in a while, um, and this is has nothing to do with the type of relationship. Let me clarify that. It could be when we say blast from the past, for those of you who are closer to my age, that typically is a romantic involvement, entanglement. Doesn't have to be. It could be someone that you used to be close to that you're not anymore. And maybe that's why there's distance. There are people that have moved away. You haven't seen them. They could be folks that are adjacent to you. And for some reason, life just kind of took you in different directions. Whatever the reason, the acceptance and appreciation of who they were in your life is also something to consider when you do that flashback. And if it was not a good experience, you can easily spiral and have regrets. And I encourage you not to do that. I encourage you that if you see someone from your past or people from your past, and life is different for them and maybe not the way that you wanted to accept where you are, and accept who you are, because your journey does not have to look like anybody else's, and it's not supposed to. So I just want to give that piece of advice in the middle of this video to help those who may um, feel like they haven't grown, or they feel like they're stuck. And that's not the case. We can't always see the growth that has transpired in a year, let alone, I'm talking, some of the folks I engaged with today I hadn't seen in 10. It's been a while. And this weekend, some folks that I saw when I was home, I hadn't seen, we talking 30 years. And the only reason that they know who I am is because now that I have shaved my head, I look very much like my father. And so people looked at me and said, Coach Mayfield's daughter? Yep, you look just like him. I know I do. And so it takes me back to who I was as a child, who my parents were, what I was going through as an adolescent, going through those pubescent years, being in love, being in high school, having goals. And it's a beautiful reflection, if I could just park there for a minute, because there are several teenagers in my life, several, actually, quite a bit, who are embarking on graduating high school in the next couple of months. My niece is graduating from college. Like, I remember those days. I remember transitioning from that child to kind of an adult, and then from that adult to like, here world, here am I, and the world is so different now. So I remember those transformations, and it makes me reflect, and it makes me appreciative that there's a journey that has taken place. And your journey, you may have had some detours, and the journey may not have taken you places that you have preferred. Some of those journeys, like, they were rocky for a lot of us, and yet here we are. So appreciation and acceptance. And the next thought is something that I have said already tonight, and something that I continue to say, in that growth is a process, very much like sanctification. We are ever marching towards perfection, marching towards being like Christ, who was perfect, marching towards the goal, the mark of the high calling of Jesus Christ. Like, we're marching as believers to that goal. And for those who are not believers, you're not necessarily marching to that goal. You're, like the rest of us, also still growing and having that growth process. It is a process. It has a beginning, a lot of weird stuff in the middle, and it ultimately culminates in the end. And yet we're going to keep evolving. So I encourage you, if you have a moment of reflection and you find yourself around people that knew you when, and that people you haven't, just spent some time with in a while, they can't see who you are now. They only remember, that point in time. And oh, by the way, I'm not talking 10, 8 years. It could be months. There's a lot that happens and transparent and transpires in our lives within weeks, within days. So this gap doesn't necessarily have to be in years. It could be in weeks. And yet we are being changed. And a lot of times we validate who we are now based on the things that we've experienced, based on our development, based on our encounters, based on how we lived, who we lived with, and the lessons that life taught us along the way. And that growth is an ever present reminder that we will keep growing as long as we keep living. Doesn't have to be pretty, but we do have a continuum, right? And the reason it matters, I believe, is that it keeps us curious, and it keeps us from being complacent. There are folks that and I know, that are like stuck. that's one word you can use to describe them, that you don't really see the growth. And I'm not talking about from a distance, y'all. I'm talking about people you do life with. I'm talking about people that you commune, that you have a conversation with at least every day, if not every other day, not the objective judgment from a distance. I'm talking about people that you are actually in relationship with, or some type of engagement where you've made an assessment, right, wrong or indifferent, that they're not growing. And so growth is a process, and it matters because that reflection reminds us of how we've grown, and it also fuels us to continue to grow. um, the emotional impact of that is that some of those memories, as I stated earlier, aren't good ones. But the other aspect is that we have this revelation of who we are becoming. We have not arrived yet. For my believers out there, we are ever becoming. We are pressing towards the mark of the high calling of Jesus Christ. We are ever pressing. And so the believer, let's just say you were not a believer 10 years ago. This is for my believers, my disciples of Jesus Christ out there. Let's just say that you gave your life over to Christ 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The person that you are now is different. When God enters in our lives, there's a difference. There is a difference. We don't talk the same. We don't move the same. We pause. We're curious. We ask more questions. We pray. Our lives are somehow changed and transformed. And that is one of the biggest examples that I can see in the memory of folks that I have come across this weekend, like in the course of this weekend, that I have known in different parts of my life. Because the woman that I am now, again, you're going to hear me say it all the time, she's still striving towards the mark. And yet I am so thankful that the woman I am now is a different woman. I've 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 learned, I've studied, I've had heartaches and trials, and I've made mistakes, and I have been introspective. I've been on my knees, I've been in prayer, I've committed my life to study the Bible through a Bible teaching church. I have friends that continue to remind me that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and they love on me and remind me and hold me accountable. Like, all of those things in my Christian walk have evolved because some of the folks that I did life with 10 years ago, I don't even know where they are. Like, we're not connected. And so seeing those folks and understanding who I was even as a woman of God is so different. My life was just so different. And so I am energized to make sure that as I grow, that I stay committed to the growth, that I stay committed to keeping my eyes on God, that I stay committed to making sure that I am leaving a trail of goodness, and I'm not leaving bodies in my wake. Like the people that I ran into, um thankfully, now y'all, this is not a humble brag, for real. Thankfully, they have fond memories of me. They miss me. They're like, man, I wondered what happened to you. Like, I see you on social media and you look great, you're doing well, like you look happy. And those are all great things. Now, mind you, they're outside looking in because they're not necessarily in my life to know all of the nooks and crannies, the downs, the ups, and the sideways. But it does my heart good that we left off on a positive note, or a note where we can, reflect and appreciate that we are in different directions and say, hey, you looking, you're here, you're alive, you're doing well. The emotion um, around that reminds me of what I have achieved, not just in those relationships, but what was going on with us. I want to end the video because I want to bring us to a point of, so what? Why does it matter? And I believe it matters to me because I went through so many different emotions in the last 48 hours. I'm going to say 72 because I went through some emotions today, um, that a couple of twinges of like, like some of them weren't really overtly negative, but some of them just had some really touch points. And this is what I want us to remember. I want us to refrain from going in this direction. So tip number 1, reframe the encounter. So if you saw someone from your past and you're just reconnecting, and you're not reconnecting but you're seeing them, you're like, hey, how's it going? Resist the urge to measure yourself against that person. We all grow at different rates. We all have different life encounters that grow us up quickly, and some encounters keep us stagnant. Well, not the encounter, but our growth, our maturity, all of those things. We grow at different rates. So please do not measure yourself against that person. um Comparison kills. Thank you for that song. Comparison kills. It really does. So avoid that, and instead appreciate who you are and appreciate who they are, um in the conversation, in the encounter. And my favorite one, I'm going to switch on. Practice gratitude. I don't know if y'all can see I'm a lean. This is my tattoo because I love that word. And every dark place, every bout of depression, every moment of sadness where I'm down on myself and I'm really not feeling worthy, I'm just, feeling out of it. It's because I am just in a place. And so having an attitude of gratitude is definitely one of those things that really instantly pulls me back up. And look at some changes that you're grateful for. Like if you meet someone, or you're engaging with someone and you're doing the catching up and you're seeing where they are in their life, and they're seeing where you are, resist the urge to do that tit for tat. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Tit for tat comparison, and instead be thankful. And if you can't in that moment, put a pin in it and just write it down. Put a pin in it and write it down later. Put a pin in it, making sure I'm holding this correctly. I don't want to turn it off. And just engage and listen. Gratitude allows you to hold your mule. Gratitude allows you to say, yep, I am going into the comparison, but I'm going to stop it right here and I'm going to listen and be grateful for where this person is in their life. The next one is a growth log. Now, I personally keep a journal, and my journal is more scripture, more prayer. I used to write down a lot of my thoughts, and then I stopped because I was going through. I journaled a lot when I went through my divorce. I journaled a lot when my father passed away. I journaled a lot when I was going through some really tough times. And so lately, instead of journaling, I talk more, I have conversations more. So I don't necessarily keep a log, but I do keep a blessing log. I do write down my prayers. And I also write down how God answered the prayer. I remember that from the prayer room. That was one of the aspects of that movie that shifted my entire life spiritually after watching that movie. Thank you, Priscilla Shire and the brothers that directed that movie. Is that I created a prayer room. I put prayers on the wall and I taped them up, and I actually wrote down how God answered them. And that was an opportunity to not just remember, but reflect and see real time what God was doing and is continuing to do in my life. And I'll just end with this one. Practice some self compassion. When we have those encounters with people that knew us when, and you may not be able to update them on all the ways that God has changed you and made you different because you don't do life with them, or because they've moved away, or because you just they're not around. It's been years, it's been months since they've engaged with you. Practice self-compassion, because sometimes the growth that is happening, they're not going to see. And even if they do see it, they may not believe it, or they may have an opinion about it. And it'll be interesting if you meet somebody and you actually have this conversation, because that's real deep. But I've had an example in my own personal life where I saw someone that I hadn't seen for years, and they asked me a question about something, and they were like, "Oh, there you go, you still this?" I said, "Yeah." Well, I'm honest. I'm still going to be honest, but what they could not tell in my answer is that I don't lose sleep over it. Like, you heard an honest response, but what they didn't hear was how I move on with life, and how I give it to God, how I pray about it, and how God answers my prayer. And He shows me, like, daughter, this is what you need to do going forward. Oh, no, daughter, this is what that was. And so they can't see that, and it's okay. So give yourself some grace. That's what we call that self compassion. And just recognize that you are still here and that you're still growing, and then that's okay. And then I said it was last, the self compassion part, but I'm going to do an adjacent topic, not topic, but I'm going to do an adjacent word that says, not after you have some compassion for yourself, celebrate. Come on, celebrate who you are, celebrate where you are. I purposely wore this t-shirt because I bought it after I saw it on Facebook, and I love it. And it says, I'm a bad chick with a bald head, living life. After I shaved my head, I went through a period of how I looked, how I felt about myself, and I wasn't sure, y'all. The compliments that I'm getting now, it took me a minute to get here because I cut my hair and I still had hair. I got folks saying, you should dye it, or, why you still got this hair? Like, y'all, I don't know. This is new for me too. I'm still trying to figure it out. But when I saw this shirt, it really resonated with who I am now. Even that is growth. That I can walk around with no hair, in a society and culture that continues to say that our hair is our crown. My father was definitely one for that. He loved the fact that we all had thick natural hair. At least, I did at one point in time. And so it took me a minute to adjust to being a bald head chick. And let me tell you, I've adjusted just fine. Thank you very much. I love it. I ain't going back, don't want to go back. Even on cold days, I think about wearing it. Where just me thinking about it makes me no, no. So that is just a quick momentary commentary on how I see myself as an example with my bald head. So I celebrate. I don't celebrate the fact that I am here or you're there, or we're different places. I celebrate what's happening in my life right now as I sit in this kitchen recording this video. I am celebrating. I am happy. I'm happy for other people. I pray for people. I continually thank God for the woman that I am now. I thank God for the things that I'm going through, because low key, they've been bringing me close to the cross, a closer, closer, closer walk with thee. And while I would prefer to not have these issues and things come up, I'm so thankful. Gratitude, gratitude. Gratitude right there. The fact that I'm even holding up my arms so you all can see, my little turkey arms. But the Karen 5, 7, 10 years ago would never have done that. But guess what? I don't care. I'm celebrating the body I'm in. I'm celebrating who God has shown himself to be. I'm celebrating the woman of God that he's called me to be, the wife he's called me to be. I'm just celebrating life. And so when you see folks that are from your past, you're going to have some emotions. You're going to hold up a mirror because there's been distance, and you got to catch up. The brain is natural. It's human. It's a human response. The brain has to catch up, and it has to start somewhere. As you catch up, resist the urge to compare. Love yourself. Understand that we're all growing and processing and living life, and be graceful with yourself. If you're not where you think you ought to be, just show yourself some grace and some love. God loves you. He is not giving up on you. And I know he hasn't, because if you're listening to this video, you're still here. So there's opportunity that he's giving you to get going and get right and doing the things that he has for you on your purpose in your life, and then celebrate the small things, celebrate the wins. So fine, you picked up an extra 20 pounds, an extra 10 pounds, fine, celebrate the fact that you're well fed, celebrate the fact that you still, Lord willing, have time to work on those healthful things. But if that area isn't so great, think of another area. So you may have graduated, your child is graduating, your child is in college, you bought your first home, you still got a job, you've got reasonable health. I mean, celebrate the wins of life, so that that walk down memory lane doesn't sound like a walk in the valley, but more a walk with the one who continues to keep us moving forward. That's really all I have tonight. I pray that you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed to Karen's Chronicles, please feel free to do so. Share this video with someone who may need it, who may need a little pick me up, who could use some grace in their life, and remind them of how awesome they are and how awesome they will continue to be, especially if you keep your hands in God's hands and don't let go as we walk through this thing called life. All right, y'all. Until next time, have a good one.